Hello everyone, and welcome to Mr. Here we see Africa, and this here is Angola. Now come on, let's see what it has to say for itself, shall we? The first people to make Angola their home were the hunter-gatherer Khoi and San peoples. These hunters, however, became the hunted when they were kicked out by the Bantu-speaking peoples from here in about 500 BC. This was part of the so-called Bantu expansion, when the West Central Africans began invading Eastern and Southern Africa and essentially taking over. Now these new people were not united. They spoke related Bantu languages, but were separated by tribe into groups like the Ovimbundu, Ambundu, Congo, Chokwe, and Ambo. The centuries went by and the dearth of written sources makes Angola's history very hazy, but by the late 1300s the Congo Kingdom was established in Angola by Lukeni Luanimi, who conquered the kingdom of Mwene and made Mbanza Congo the capital of the Congo Kingdom. One of Congo's vassal lands was known as Ndongo, which had its own kings called the Angola. It is from this word that modern Angola gets its name. Congo society thrived on trade and was very much agrarian. Villagers would farm an area of land until it could yield no more, move elsewhere and repeat. Oh, and they also used seashells for money. 100 would get you a chicken, 30,000 a male slave. Then in 1483 the Portuguese arrived, led by explorer João Gocao. And don't let his scowling face fool you, he was very pleased at what he saw. Opportunity. Now the Portuguese at the time were mainly focused on finding a route around Africa to get to India for trade, which they did, but all the ensuing exploration of the world extended their plans. A big change came with the Portuguese colonization of Brazil in South America. There they found enormous stretches of land promising immense wealth, and as human beings are impatient and they did not want to slowly settle it to work the land and reel in profit, they wanted to work all the land now. So what do you do if you want to quickly work a huge amount of land without the numbers to do it? You get others to do it. This is where Angola comes in. Portugal established strong ties with the Congo leaders, who were very eager to get their hands on European cloth, wine, and above all, firearms. To this end, they traded ivory, gold, and above all, slaves. This is worth noting. African slaves were sold with the full permission of African leaders. Angola had always had slavery, only now Angolan leaders found a way to make some serious money with it. Estimates vary, but certainly more than 1 million Angolans were sold into European slavery, most ending up on plantations in Brazil. Once Portugal fully realized the value of Angola, it set about establishing more control, setting up ports and cities like Luanda in 1576. Portugal kept mainly to the coast, rarely venturing into the sizable interior. So business continued with typical hiccups now and then, notably when Portugal had to deal with a very determined woman, Queen Nzinga of Ndongo and Matamba. After trying diplomacy, she took up arms against the Portuguese to rid her lands of their colonial efforts. Then the Dutch arrived, took Luanda and began taking over. Queen Nzinga allied with the Dutch and led her army to beat the Portuguese. For some years the Dutch were in charge, but the Portuguese came back with their bros from Brazil, led by a guy with maybe the coolest mustache in the world, and reconquered Angola, compelling Queen Nzinga to retreat. She would sign a peace treaty with Portugal in 1657. So things went on and the world changed, and finally in 1834 the slave trade was abolished in Angola. Of course, sneaky people tried to keep it going, so Portugal had its buddy Britain step in to help enforce the ban. But while things were improving in this respect, there was still a lot of problems. The Portuguese minority imposed serious political and economic restrictions on the black and mixed Angolans, and anti-Portuguese sentiment and attacks began to rise. By 1917, Portugal had subdued the entire land area, naturally accomplished by warfare, which even more naturally heightened the anger of the Angolan people. The ballooning anger finally burst in 1961, when the Angolan War of Independence began. These three nationalist groups fought Portugal, but could not themselves unite or agree with each other. Portugal was on the cusp of military victory when, in 1974, the government in Portugal was toppled, and the new one favoured freedom for Angola. Communist MPLA leader Agostinho Neto seized Luanda and became the first president. So Angola was free from Portugal, and if you think Angola was happy, you're wrong. Remember those three contentious groups? Well, two of them immediately started fighting each other, convinced their own ideas were better. And what's more convincing than having a gun pointed at your head? Thus began the Angolan Civil War, which quickly became a Cold War conflict, with the Soviet Union and United States providing weapons to the sides they supported. It dragged on for 26 years and left some 500,000 people dead. The left-wing MPLA, headed by José Eduardo dos Santos, had come out on top by 1992, but strong opposition remained, simmering in the person of Jonas Savimbi, until he was finally killed in battle 10 years later. Angola has since struggled on through its efforts at rebuilding the shattered country, suffering political corruption and a horrible 2016 drought, which was the last thing a very rural country needed. But hope remains and optimism is high for the future of Angola. Infrastructure is improving via EU and Chinese investment, and the economy is growing very quickly, and the potential of the nation's abundant natural riches has scarcely been tapped. And one can only hope this helps lift the impoverished 50% out of their impecunious state. What do you think lies ahead for Angola? Comment below, but for now, bye-bye.